Everyone has a place inside them they try to hide. You know what I'm talking about, that place you avoid when things get quiet. The voice that says you're not enough, the memory that stings when you think about what you could have been, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, you're wasting time pretending to be strong while silently carrying weakness like a secret shame. But what if I told you that the part of you you're most afraid of, the weakness, the fear, the insecurity, isn't the thing holding you back? What if it's the very place your strength is waiting to be born? You see, the world tells us to hide our flaws, to mask our uncertainty, to pretend we've got it all together. But the Stoics saw things differently. They didn't run from weakness, they studied it, they stood face to face with it, because they understood something that most people never figure out. You cannot unlock your potential by avoiding your pain. You cannot become strong by ignoring what's broken. Strength isn't something you inherit. It's something you build, and you build it from the ruins of what tried to destroy you. I want you to imagine your greatest weakness, not as a curse, but as clay. You can shape it, mold it, refine it, but only if you stop pretending it doesn't exist. The first step to unlocking your potential isn't learning something new, it's facing what you've been unwilling to face. That part of yourself you call weakness, it's actually the beginning of wisdom. That's what this message is about. Not motivation, not hype, but transformation. The kind that doesn't come from a podcast or a quote on social media, but from brutal honesty and relentless self-discipline, from facing yourself and deciding to stop living small, because let's be real, you weren't made for small. You weren't made to keep your head down and hope life gets easier. You were made to rise, but you don't rise by pretending. You rise by confronting the truth and then using it like fuel. The Stoics didn't believe in pity, they believed in power. But not the kind of power you get from controlling others. They believed in inner power, the kind no one can give you or take from you. The kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are, what you've been through, and what you're willing to do about it. That kind of power doesn't come from comfort, it comes from challenge. From failure, from suffering that you refuse to waste. If you're feeling weak right now, good. That means you're awake. It means you haven't completely gone numb. It means you still care. And that's the first sign of life. But what you do next, that's where everything changes. You can keep running, you can keep pretending, or you can stop, breathe, and decide that this moment, this exact point in time, is where the weakness ends and the work begins. This isn't going to be easy, but it will be real. And if you lean in, if you stay with me, you're going to learn how to turn your hidden pain into visible power. You're going to see that what looked like a dead end was actually a door, that what felt like failure was really formation. That your potential isn't lost, it's just buried under everything you've been too afraid to feel. So here's my challenge to you. Stop looking away, stop numbing, stop pretending. For the next few minutes, give yourself permission to tell the truth. No filters, no masks. Just you, your story, and the strength that's been waiting in the shadows. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to uncover who you already are beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the lie that weakness makes you less. Because it doesn't, it makes you human. And from that place of honesty, you can build something unbreakable. Let's begin. Let me tell you something that most people don't want to admit. Your weakness isn't special. That might sound harsh at first, but it's one of the most liberating truths you'll ever hear. Because the moment you realize your struggle isn't unique, you can stop feeling isolated by it. You can stop acting like you're the only one fighting battles no one sees. And that's when you can finally start doing the work that leads to transformation. Every human being who's ever lived has felt weak. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire, wrote daily reminders to himself about staying humble, staying calm, staying grounded, because he knew how easily he could be pulled into pride, anger, self-pity. Epictetus was a slave. He had every reason to believe life was unfair, and yet he taught the world how to master the mind. Seneca lived under the threat of execution, watched his wealth rise and fall, and still found time to write about inner peace. These were not men who lived easy lives, but they didn't let hardship make them bitter. They let it make them better. So what's your excuse? If you feel like you're drowning in doubt, if you failed more times than you can count, if you can't seem to get a grip on your emotions, you're not broken, you're just human. The Stoics never said you wouldn't fall. They said when you fall, you get back up with more wisdom. That's the work, that's the path. Weakness isn't the problem. Shame is. The shame that tells you you should have figured it out by now. The shame that whispers you're the only one struggling. That shame keeps you quiet, isolated, pretending. And every time you pretend, you strengthen the very thing that's holding you back. But here's the good news. Weakness is a signal, not a sentence. It's a call to pay attention, to slow down, to notice where you're bleeding energy. Maybe it's your thoughts. Maybe it's your habits. Maybe it's the stories you tell yourself about what you're capable of. Whatever it is, when you stop running from it and start examining it, you take back power. And that's what the Stoics did so well. They didn't waste time fantasizing about being someone else. They faced who they were, flaws and all. They knew you can't conquer what you won't confront, so they confronted everything. Every fear, every failure, every fragile part of their humanity. And in doing so, they forged unshakable strength. Now it's your turn. Look at your life. Where are you weak right now? Where are you reactive, resentful, insecure? What do you avoid because it makes you feel small? Write it down. Say it out loud. Let it breathe. Because the moment you acknowledge it, you stop letting it control you from the shadows. You're not weak because you feel pain. You're not weak because you haven't figured everything out. You're weak only when you pretend you don't have work to do. And pretending won't get you anywhere worth going. So drop the act, take off the mask, own your story. All of it, that's how transformation begins. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about where weakness actually comes from. Because if you want to change it, you have to understand it. And I don't mean just blaming your past or pointing fingers. I mean looking at the roots. Most weakness doesn't come from what's wrong with you. It comes from what you were never taught. It comes from beliefs you didn't choose, environments you didn't design, habits you didn't realize were forming. Weakness isn't always a lack of strength. Sometimes it's just an absence of clarity. Maybe you grew up never being taught how to manage emotion, so now anger controls you. Maybe you were told not to cry, not to talk about struggle, so now you shut down when life gets hard. Maybe no one showed you how to build discipline, so you give up too easily. That doesn't make you a failure. It means you're carrying someone else's ignorance, and it's time to let it go. Weakness also comes from fear. Fear of being seen, fear of trying and failing, fear of being judged, abandoned, misunderstood. And fear has a funny way of disguising itself. It shows up as procrastination, as perfectionism, as comparison. But underneath it all, it's just fear. And fear only grows when you hide from it. The Stoics had a brutal kind of honesty. They believed in naming things for what they were. If they felt fear, they didn't cover it with ego. If they felt pain, they didn't hide it with pride. They looked it in the face and said, "This is part of me. Now what am I going to do with it?" You can do the same. Stop calling weakness something else. Stop dressing it up. Strip it down to its core. Are you lazy, or are you afraid of trying and failing? Are you angry, or are you hurting underneath? Are you stuck, or are you clinging to an identity that doesn't fit anymore? Once you find the root, you can uproot it. But if you keep trimming the surface, nothing changes. Another source of weakness is habit. Repetition makes identity. And if you've been repeating the same thought patterns, behaviors, excuses, those become who you think you are. Not because it's true, but because you haven't done anything different yet. You've got to break the loop, and that starts with awareness. Watch yourself, not with judgment, but with precision. When do you shut down? When do you lash out? What triggers your insecurity? Start tracking it like a scientist, because self-awareness isn't a buzzword. It's a weapon, and the Stoics wielded it with precision. Lastly, understand that your environment plays a role. Who you surround yourself with matters. What you consume matters. If you live in chaos, your thoughts will mirror it. If you're around people who settle, you will too, but that's not an excuse, it's a signal. Change your inputs, and your outputs change. You don't have to burn everything down. Just start being intentional. Start designing your day like your future depends on it, because it does. Clean up your space. Choose better words. Choose better people. Choose better thoughts. And keep choosing until strength becomes your default. Weakness isn't fixed, it's fluid. It grows or it shrinks based on what you feed it. So if you're tired of being stuck, stop feeding the thing that keeps you stuck. Start feeding the part of you that's been waiting to rise. You're not doomed to stay how you are. But you are responsible for who you become. And the path forward starts right here, with ruthless honesty, focused attention, and a willingness to do what most people won't. Face yourself fully. From there, everything changes. Let's shift something right now. Not your circumstances, not your goals, but your perspective. Because the moment you stop seeing weakness as a curse and start seeing it as fuel, everything changes. That's not just some catchy idea. That's Stoicism in action. That's how the strongest people in history were able to endure things most of us would collapse under. They didn't pray for the storm to stop. They learned how to use the storm to sharpen themselves. They didn't run from the fire. They walked into it, knowing it would burn off what wasn't essential. Your weakness isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your transformation. It's the material your greatness is made from. But you have to be willing to reframe how you see it. You have to look at your scars and say, this didn't break me, it built me. You have to look at your fear and say, this isn't proof I'm weak. It's proof I'm human, and that means I can grow. The Stoics had a word for this, amor fati. It means love of fate. Not just acceptance, not just tolerance, but love. Loving what happens, even the pain, even the loss, even the failure, because it's all part of the process. That's what separates people who rise from people who rot in self-pity. One group sees pain as punishment. The other sees it as preparation. You can choose that mindset right now. You can choose to believe that nothing you've gone through is wasted. That every failure, every betrayal, every dark night of the soul has been shaping something in you, something fierce, something focused, something unshakable. But you've got to own that perspective. You've got to speak to yourself in a way that fuels that fire instead of smothering it. Most people talk to themselves like enemies, like bullies. They replay their mistakes over and over. They speak shame into their own minds, and then they wonder why they feel stuck. But the Stoics knew that what you say to yourself becomes your reality. That's why they trained their thoughts like warriors train their bodies, not with softness, with structure, with focus. So here's what you do. The next time you feel weak, don't run from it. Sit with it, study it, ask it questions. Why are you here? What are you trying to teach me? What have I been avoiding that created you? And then you do the hardest thing. You thank it. Because that weakness is revealing the next place you need to grow. That fear is showing you where your edge is. That failure is pointing to your blind spot. That's not weakness, that's wisdom in disguise. Start journaling. Not just about your day, but about your mind, about your reactions, about the parts of you you don't want anyone to see. Put it on paper, don't edit it, don't filter it. Just write, and you'll begin to see patterns. You'll begin to see that your weakness isn't random. It's rooted, And once you see the root, you can start changing the soil it grows in. Visualization helps too. Not the kind where you imagine yachts and perfect lives. Visualize yourself in pressure. Visualize being rejected, misunderstood, betrayed, and then imagine how you want to respond. See yourself calm, see yourself grounded, see yourself choosing discipline over drama. That's not fantasy, that's rehearsal, and it trains your nervous system to respond like a stoic, not like a victim. Reframing isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about realizing you don't need things to be okay in order to be powerful. You need clarity. You need ownership. And you need the courage to stare your story in the face and decide what it means now. Because no matter what's happened to you, you still get to write the next chapter. And if you're willing to do the work, that chapter will be the one where you rise. Now we get to the heart of it. You've reframed your weakness. You've started to see it as fuel, but if you stop there, it's just theory. Transformation only happens through discipline, practice, repetition, the kind of quiet, unsexy work that no one claps for. And that's where most people give up, because they want change, but they don't want the process. The Stoics were obsessed with discipline, not because they were rigid, but because they knew how chaotic the world could be. They knew that storms come without warning, that pain doesn't ask for permission, so they trained themselves every day to be ready. Not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, they built lives that were steady no matter what the world threw at them. You have to do the same. Discipline is how you take the idea of transformation and make it real, and it starts small. It starts with showing up when you don't feel like it, with doing the next right thing, not the easiest thing, with choosing integrity over comfort. You don't have to do everything, but you do have to do something every day. Start with premeditatio malorum. That means thinking about what could go wrong, not to worry, but to prepare. Imagine the challenge. Imagine the setback, and then train your mind to meet it. Ask yourself, how would the strongest version of me respond? And then practice that response. Not someday. Now, in small ways. In how you talk to yourself, in how you handle delays, disrespect, discomfort. Then apply the dichotomy of control. There are things you can't change. There are things you can. Strength is in knowing the difference. Most people waste their energy trying to control what they can't. Other people's opinions, the past, the outcome of things they haven't even started. But the Stoics focused on the only thing that mattered, their own mind, their own action, their own response. Every time you catch yourself obsessing over something outside your control, bring it back. What can I do right now? What attitude can I choose? What action can I take? That's where your power lives. Not in the outcome, in the effort, in the posture you choose when things go wrong. You also need to build rituals. Discipline isn't just about willpower, it's about structure. Create spaces in your day for silence, for reflection, for reading things that sharpen your soul instead of numbing your mind. Turn your morning into a launch pad, not a snooze fest. Turn your evenings into a reset, not a collapse. You don't need a perfect routine. You need a consistent one. And here's the secret. The more you do it, the less it becomes a fight. It becomes who you are. That's how you change identity, not by hoping, but by acting. You act like the person you want to be. You do what that version of you would do, over and over. Until one day you look back and realize the weakness you thought would break you has become the strength that defines you. Discipline is love. It's love for your future self. It's love for the people who depend on you. It's love for the life you haven't lived yet, but are building now. Every rep, every hard decision, every time you choose virtue over indulgence, it's a vote for your potential. And over time, those votes add up. They become character, they become momentum, they become freedom. So, stop waiting for motivation. Start building discipline. Let your actions lead, and your emotions will follow. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. Because transformation isn't for the chosen. It's for the committed. And if you keep showing up, keep leaning in, keep doing the work, there will come a day when the thing that once felt like a weakness now feels like your greatest strength. And that day won't be an accident. It will be the result of everything you're doing right now, quietly, faithfully, relentlessly. Keep going, you're not far. Now let's talk about the fire, the trials, the hardships, the pain that breaks you down before it ever builds you up. Because here's the truth, no one wants to hear. You can't become strong without suffering. You can't build resilience without resistance. Every great soul was forged in struggle, not comfort. And if you're serious about transformation, you've got to stop avoiding adversity and start using it. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Seneca said, "Fire tests gold, suffering tests brave men." Pain isn't the enemy. Weakness isn't the enemy. Running from them is. Every challenge you face is an invitation, not to collapse but to grow, not to feel sorry for yourself but to rise above yourself. Because adversity is the gym where the soul gets stronger. You've been through things, some of it people know. Some of it you've buried so deep you don't even talk about it anymore. But those things didn't come to destroy you. They came to teach you. They came to reveal you. And if you stop running and start facing them, you'll see that what felt like punishment was actually preparation. Think about it. The hardest moments in your life, didn't they also show you what mattered most? Didn't they strip away the fake things and leave you with something real? Pain has a way of clarifying. It burns off the unnecessary. It exposes your excuses. It makes you honest. That's why you can't waste it. You can't go through all that and learn nothing. You can't survive the storm and stay the same. You've got to extract the wisdom. You've got to look at the wound and say, okay, now what do I do with this? Because you can't always choose what happens to you, but you always choose how you respond to it. The Stoics didn't see adversity as a curse. They saw it as training, a chance to prove to themselves that they could stay calm, focused, disciplined, even when everything around them was falling apart. That's the kind of strength you can't fake. You can't pretend you've got it. You earn it through trial, through tension, through fire. So here's what I want you to do. Stop asking, why me? Start asking, what is this teaching me? Because there's a lesson in every loss, a strength in every scar, a power in every setback. But only if you're willing to look for it. Some of you are facing things right now that feel like too much. Like you're on the edge of something that might break you. But hear me, it's not going to break you. It's going to build you. If you stay present, if you stop resisting, if you let the pain do its work, don't numb it, don't hide from it, walk into it. Let it refine you, let it humble you, let it teach you the kind of strength you can't learn in comfort. Because there are lessons that only pain can teach, and once you've learned them, no one can take them from you. Start doing hard things on purpose, not to punish yourself, but to prepare yourself. Get up earlier, sit in silence, have the hard conversation. Face the thing you've been avoiding. Challenge your body, your mind, your spirit, not because it's fun, but because it's training. Controlled discomfort builds confidence. When you choose your pain, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim, you stop being fragile. You become someone who can walk through the fire and still move forward. And here's the best part. You don't need to wait until life gets easier to do this. You can start today, right now. With whatever you've got, your current adversity is your current training ground. Your pain isn't a detour. It's the path, so face it, use it. Let it shape you, because you're not being punished, you're being prepared. And when you come out the other side, you won't just be stronger, you'll be transformed. You've walked through the fire. You've faced your fears, you've taken your weakness and turned it into something powerful. And now something new starts to emerge. A quiet kind of power, the kind that doesn't need to shout, the kind that doesn't depend on applause. The kind that comes from knowing who you are and what you've overcome. This is when you start to own your power, not the borrowed kind, not the performative kind, the real kind, the kind that shows up in how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself when no one's watching. The kind that doesn't flinch in chaos because it's been built in the dark. Owning your power doesn't mean pretending to be perfect. It means refusing to apologize for your strength. It means knowing where you came from, what you've survived, and what you're capable of now. It means standing tall in rooms where you used to shrink. It means choosing your values over your comfort. It means living aligned, not just admired. You become the kind of person who doesn't get swayed by every opinion. You stop chasing validation. You stop begging for acceptance because you've accepted yourself fully, flaws and all, and from that place real confidence is born. And that confidence, it's not arrogance. It's not loud, it's rooted, it's calm. It's the result of doing the inner work most people avoid. It's built on choices made in silence, on promises kept to yourself, on battles no one saw but you still fought with everything you had. You'll notice something else too. The people around you will start to shift. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because your presence changes the energy in the room. People feel it when someone walks in who's done the work. They feel it when you don't need to dominate or prove because you already know. That kind of power can't be faked. It's earned, and you've earned it. But don't stop here. This isn't the end. This is the foundation. Because now, everything you do is built on strength, on purpose, on discipline. You're not reactive anymore. You're intentional. You're not driven by fear anymore. You're guided by values. You become the kind of person who can carry others, who can lead without ego, who can lift without needing to be seen. That's the highest level. That's where potential becomes purpose. That's where strength becomes service. You're not just transforming yourself. You're becoming someone who transforms others just by being who you are. And that ripple effect, it's real. The stronger you get, the more you elevate the people around you, not by preaching, just by living it. So keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep walking the path, because the power you're building now, it's not just for you. It's for everyone who's ever needed someone to show them what's possible. Own that, carry that, be that. Because your strength, your wisdom, your presence, it's not just personal. It's a gift, and the world needs it. Now more than ever. This is where it all comes together. Everything you've been through, everything you've faced, every weakness you've exposed and transformed, it leads here to this moment, where you stop looking at strength as something outside of you and start recognizing that it's already inside you, waiting. Not lost, not broken, not out of reach. Just buried beneath fear, doubt and noise. But now, the noise is quieter. The fear has been named. The doubt has been seen for what it really is, an illusion built by years of false stories and unchallenged beliefs. You've walked through that, you've looked it in the eye, and you're still standing. That's no small thing. You've learned to face your weakness with honesty, not shame. You've gone back to the root, questioned your stories and shifted your perspective. You've chosen discipline when comfort whispered your name. You've trained your mind when everything in the world told you to give up. You've looked at pain and said, "You can stay, but I'll use you." You've taken back your power. Now, your job is to live like it, every day. Quietly, fiercely, intentionally. You don't need to announce who you've become, just be it. Let the way you carry yourself be your message. Let your actions speak louder than your explanations ever could, because people don't need another lecture. They need an example. And you are that example now. You are proof that people can grow, that strength can be built from struggle. That potential isn't a myth, it's a responsibility. It's something you owe to the life you've been given. because your existence is not a mistake. You're here right now because you still have work to do, you still have people to impact, you still have greatness to unfold. So don't let this just be another video, let this be a decision, a turning point. The day you stopped treating your life like a rehearsal and started living like it matters. The day you stopped making excuses and started making moves. The day you stopped fearing your weakness and started using it as the reason you rise. It's going to be hard. There will still be moments when the old voice comes back, when doubt creeps in, when failure knocks again. But you're not the same anymore. You've built something inside you that those moments can't touch. You've got roots now, and rooted people don't get shaken by storms. They stand through them, live-rooted. Live with values that don't change based on convenience. Live with a mind that isn't pulled in every direction by emotion. Live with a strength that comes from alignment, not approval. That's the Stoic way. That's the way of men and women who build lives of substance, not just appearance. Let the world keep chasing the next trend. You chase truth. Let others react. You respond. Let them shout. You stay silent and steady, because when you live like this, you don't just become strong. You become rare. And that kind of rarity, that kind of integrity, it shines, not with noise, but with quiet, unwavering presence. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be whole, to be real, to be fully alive in your strength and your scars, to lead others not by telling them who to be, but by showing them who you've become. And if this message has stirred something in you, if you feel that fire beginning to rise again, don't ignore it. Feed it, protect it, build on it. Because your strength isn't some distant ideal, it's the very essence of who you are when you strip away the lies, the fear, the distractions. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people like you, people who've faced themselves, people who've transformed quietly, people who live from the inside out. So keep walking, keep building, keep rising. You've already begun. Don't stop now.